was so unique about it is, unlike most study abroads at Michigan State, we were in the rainforest for pretty much the entire time. We didn't see many people. We camped out in tents and really got to focus on our course objectives and see them firsthand. So we looked at the evolution and the adaptive radiations within the Albertine Rift, which Uganda is located in. And the most important thing that we learned was how to do field research, and we learned different skill sets, including working hands-on with birds and setting up mist nets.
So this is actually our poster presentation for, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Undergraduate Research and Arts Forum through MSU. We presented this at the 2013 Spring Forum. Basically, do you want to go into our research?
Yeah, sure, why not? So basically we were over there, we had to design a research project. We decided to look at the correlation between the presence of wing parasites and whether they had a FAT score. No, a brood patch, excuse me. So we thought that basically them having a brood patch, which would correlate to them spending time on the nest, would lead to them having more wing parasites. And we found no correlation. But I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that these birds we were catching were really strange and kind of unknown species that when we came back here to actually write the paper, not a lot of literature had been written about them, or it was very broad. So maybe, we'll get to that later. But more research needs to be done to draw any kind of conclusions if another experiment like this is done.
Yeah, so through URAF, we actually got a lot of soft skills. Yeah, sure. In terms of poster making, communication, public speaking. We also, this is a picture of us. We actually got first place, not to brag, but it was exciting. Thank you. So that was definitely a really large aspect of our group development after returning from Uganda. Often I feel study abroad kind of ends once you come back to America, and it really shouldn't, because when you come back to university, that's when you should be developing on all of the skills that you accumulated while abroad, and that's kind of what we have been trying to do throughout the past 2 years that we've been back now, even though it doesn't feel like that long. So we've done URAF. We also have presented at the College of Natural Science Colloquium. So that's basically incoming freshmen go to different colloquiums for their colleges and get presentations by different speakers. And we were a part of the research forum, and we got to speak to a lot of freshmen about developing their skills, how they can go about researching, and not necessarily just on campus, but also different areas and what they can do after that.
I don't know if we got through to many of them. They're kind of overwhelmed trying to find their class and whatnot, but we had free highlighters.
Yeah. And then, do you want to talk about something?
Sure. So another huge thing that we participated in was we went to the study abroad affairs, and we set up our booths and tried to tell people why study abroad is so important and what it can do for them. And it was really fun. We actually rented out a gorilla costume, and we walked around as gorillas and said, oh yeah, you can come to Uganda and study gorillas, because we did ethograms and studied their behaviors and all of that stuff. And when we were in the study abroad fairs, we haven't done the research or the arts forum yet, but it's just, there's so many things you can do with it. It's amazing, and it really piques your interest in future research possibilities. So.
Yeah, overall, we've just been trying to promote as a group and individually just the ideas of not only going on studying abroad and having a good time, which obviously everyone knows it's going to be great and you're going to have a once-in-a-lifetime experience, but also making your return home a once-in-a-lifetime experience and building on that and not really giving up. So moving on from group development, this part's just about me. We're going to kind of go on to each individual person's professional development and how we've individually built on our trip. So I've done a lot of speaking engagements, which has been really fun, but also a little bit nerve-wracking. Last year I did the Learning Abroad conference. That one was a little bit different. Just to kind of go into that a little bit, we went gorilla trekking while we were in Uganda, and unfortunately I was sick on the day that I had to go gorilla trekking. So I was climbing up a mountain and throwing up, and I ended up passing out next to a gorilla, which was kind of ridiculous. But it taught me a lot about myself and the fact that I can climb up and down a mountain at about like over 1,000 feet altitude and just kind of continue despite being sick and maybe not thinking that I can do it, but actually being able to complete personal goals and having a good time, because that's probably one of the best experiences in my life and probably one of the best stories I'll ever have. But and that's kind of what I presented at last year's Learning Abroad conference. I've also presented at African Tea Time on Uganda, which is, I don't know if you guys know about the African Studies program here, but it's one of the largest African Studies programs in the United States. It's a Title VI resource center, which basically means it's government funded. It has a wealth of knowledge about Africa and about just the continent as a whole, and also the countries individually. So it was really exciting to be able to talk about a country as somewhat of an expert despite only being there for 25 days. So that has been like really exciting too, and also being able to talk to Ugandans and East Africans about my experiences. Also, we're all seniors, and I'm actually considering going to grad school next year, and I plan on, hopefully, cross your fingers if I get into grad school, but actually continuing on with Ugandan research while I'm there and talking about how refugee influx in the East African region impacts Ugandan ecotourism. So a lot of my experiences in Uganda and understanding of the ecology and natural ecosystems within that area has really impacted not only my knowledge on my subject of doctoral research, but also my ability to discuss it. So, yeah.
Okay. So my own professional development is, well, when I was in Uganda, I have taken entomology classes beforehand, and when I was there, in between researching, I would run around and be like, oh, look at these bugs, it's so cool, and I kind of collected a lot of them and showed them to people. So when I came home, I was like, oh, maybe I should look into entomology a little bit. So I actually found an internship, and for the past summer, I was the head entomologist and curator at the original Mackinac Island Butterfly House and Insect World. So when I was there, I got to schedule all the shipments, handling numbers, everything, the species of what we received. And I was in charge of pinning them up in our incubator and providing all the educational information to our guests. So my job was basically hanging out in a beautiful garden full of tropical plants and watching butterflies flying around, describing certain behaviors that people saw, and I would take them into Insect World as the next stop, and I would show our bearded dragons, water dragons, tarantulas, scorpions, and turtles to them, and just discuss everything that I'm passionate about. So that really opened up my research experience, because I would like to, when I was in the garden, I looked at how the butterflies would interact with each other, and I started thinking of research ideas. So I may be going back this summer for another term, and I might do some research in the garden, see how insects in captivity kind of interact and if they have behavioral changes throughout their short lifespans. But I'm currently a super senior, so I'm graduating in December, finally. And aside from entomology, I would like to broaden my research horizons. So I found a program in South Africa working with great white sharks. So I'm very excited to say that in February, I am headed out to Gansby, where I'll be working on a shark diving boat. And on the side, I'll be doing great white shark research, where we look at the dorsal fin of individual sharks because they're kind of like human fingerprints. They distinguish individuals. So from that information, we'll put that into a database and we will track their predator-prey relationships, migratory relationships, if they return to a certain bay or stuff like that. So, okay, sorry.
So I'm also trying to be a professional. Right now, I kind of graduated, but I still have one credit left. I'm doing an independent study, which involves kind of forwarding, like if we were going to go back to Africa, how would we progress on the research, you know, maybe lab techniques, et cetera, et cetera. That's one point that I forgot to put in there. I'm also a public health intern at Michigan Environmental Council. They do kind of a multifaceted environmental policy work, transportation, health like I do, land use, energy use, just all kinds of stuff. I'd like to get kind of multiple experience. I'm kind of pigeonholed with obese children right now, so I got to work on that. And I also want to go to environmental law school, hopefully. So that's where I'm at. And I think we're done.